What if the impossible has happened more than once? What if two children remembered a life they never lived? A priceless treasure left a trail of death across centuries. And some people survived odds so absurd they should have been impossible. These aren't urban legends. They're real stories that continue to puzzle historians, scientists, and skeptics alike. Here are the top 5 creepiest coincidences in history.
Number 5. Edgar Allan Poe's impossible prediction. Edgar Allan Poe is remembered as one of history's greatest masters of horror. His stories explored madness, death, isolation, and the darkest corners of the human mind. But one of his lesser-known novels contains a coincidence so disturbing that it still leaves literary historians speechless. In 1838, Poe published The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. The novel follows a group of sailors who become stranded at sea after their ship is lost. As their food supplies disappear and starvation sets in, the desperate survivors make an unthinkable decision. They draw lots. The unlucky sailor is killed and eaten so the others might survive. His name? Richard Parker. At the time, readers dismissed the scene as fictional horror. But 46 years later, reality appeared to imitate fiction in the most horrifying way imaginable. In 1884, the British yacht Mignonette sank during a voyage from England to Australia. 4 crew members escaped in a small lifeboat. For nearly 3 weeks, they drifted across the open ocean with almost no food or fresh water. Starvation and dehydration slowly pushed the men beyond the limits of human endurance. Eventually, they made the same terrible choice Poe had imagined decades earlier. The youngest member of the crew, a 17-year-old cabin boy, was killed so the others could survive. His name was Richard Parker. When newspapers reported the case, readers couldn't believe what they were seeing. Not only had Poe written about shipwreck survivors resorting to cannibalism decades before it happened, he had given the victim exactly the same name. The odds seem almost incomprehensible. Some paranormal researchers have argued that Poe unknowingly experienced flashes of future events while writing his stories. Others believe extraordinary creative minds occasionally tap into information beyond normal human understanding, a concept sometimes called the collective unconscious or even psychic inspiration. It's an unsettling thought, especially considering how often great works of fiction seem to echo future events. Number 4. The 2 presidents who lived eerily similar lives. For decades, people have been fascinated by the uncanny parallels between Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. 2 presidents separated by nearly a century, yet connected by an astonishing list of similarities. The comparison usually begins with the dates. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Exactly 100 years apart, Lincoln became president in 1860. Kennedy became president in 1960. Again, 1 century apart, both men were charismatic leaders who guided America through periods of profound national division. Lincoln faced the Civil War. Kennedy navigated the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and a rapidly changing America marked by civil rights struggles and global tensions. Both wives were sitting beside them when they were assassinated. Both were shot on a Friday. Both suffered fatal gunshot wounds to the head. Following each assassination, both presidents were succeeded by men named Johnson. Andrew Johnson, born in 1808, followed Lincoln. Lyndon B. Johnson, born in 1908, followed Kennedy. Even the assassins have become part of the legend. John Wilkes Booth was known by his full 3 names. Lee Harvey Oswald was also known by 3 names. Both names contain 15 letters. The list goes on, so naturally, theories began to emerge. Some people have suggested the similarities point to hidden patterns in history, as though certain events are destined to repeat themselves in different generations. Others believe history moves in mysterious cycles, echoing itself through people and events separated by decades. Number 3. The man who survived 2 atomic bombs. On August 6, 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on a business trip when history changed forever. At 8:15 that morning, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb ever used in war. In an instant, the city disappeared beneath a blinding flash brighter than the sun. Tens of thousands of people died within moments. Yamaguchi was less than 2 miles from the blast. The shockwave threw him violently through the air. His eardrums ruptured. He suffered severe burns across his face and arms. Yet somehow, he survived. After spending the night in a bomb-ravaged city, he began the long journey home. His destination? Nagasaki. 3 days later, despite his injuries, Yamaguchi reported to work. Another brilliant flash filled the office windows. A second atomic bomb had just detonated over Nagasaki. Against all odds, Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived again. He remains the only person officially recognized by the Japanese government as surviving both atomic bombings. To many, the odds seem almost impossible to comprehend. Some view Yamaguchi's story as evidence that certain people are protected by fate, that no matter how catastrophic the circumstances, they are simply not meant to die until their purpose is fulfilled. Others have described him as one of history's greatest examples of destiny intervening against overwhelming probability. Yamaguchi's position, combined with an extraordinary series of fortunate circumstances, likely saved his life twice. Even so, being present for both atomic bombings remains one of the rarest documented coincidences in modern history. It's a reminder that sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones history can prove actually happened. Number 2. The Hope Diamond's Deadly Curse. Few treasures have inspired more legends than the Hope Diamond. Weighing over 45 carats and glowing with a deep blue color unlike almost any other gemstone on Earth, the diamond is considered one of the most valuable jewels ever discovered. The story begins in 17th century India. One popular tale claims the diamond was stolen from the forehead of a sacred Hindu idol by a French gem merchant named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier. For committing such an act of sacrilege, the merchant was supposedly cursed. According to later retellings, Tavernier eventually met a gruesome end after being torn apart by wild dogs. Whether that actually happened is highly doubtful, but the legend had already begun. Over the following centuries, the diamond passed through the hands of royalty, aristocrats, and wealthy collectors. King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette possessed the gem before both were executed during the French Revolution. Other owners reportedly suffered bankruptcies, mysterious deaths, financial ruin, failed marriages, or tragic accidents. By the early 20th century, newspapers eagerly labeled the Hope Diamond the world's most cursed jewel. The stories only made it more famous. Some paranormal investigators believe certain objects can absorb emotional or spiritual energy from traumatic events, carrying misfortune from one owner to the next. Others argue that priceless artifacts removed from sacred places may retain an ancient curse protecting them from those who steal or possess them. It's the sort of legend that has surrounded treasures for thousands of years. Historians, however, see something different. Many of the tragedies linked to the Hope Diamond have been exaggerated, distorted, or entirely invented by journalists hoping to increase public fascination with the gem. The more sensational the curse became, the more newspapers sold. In reality, several owners lived long and perfectly ordinary lives. Today, the Hope Diamond resides safely inside the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., where millions of visitors admire it every year. And despite its terrifying reputation, it hasn't claimed a victim in decades. Number 1. The Reincarnated Sisters of Hexham. On May 5, 1957, tragedy struck the quiet English town of Hexham. Two young sisters, 11-year-old Joanna Pollock and 6-year-old Jacqueline Pollock, were walking to church when a speeding car mounted the sidewalk. Both girls were killed instantly. Their parents, John and Florence Pollock, were devastated. But John became convinced he would see his daughters again. Just 1 year later, Florence gave birth to twin girls named Jennifer and Jillian. At first, everything seemed perfectly normal. Then the strange similarities began. Jennifer was born with 2 unusual birthmarks. One appeared on her forehead in almost the exact location where Jacqueline had carried a scar after a childhood accident. The other matched a distinctive birthmark Jacqueline had possessed on her hip. As the twins grew older, they began asking for toys that had belonged to their deceased sisters, despite never having been shown those possessions. When the family visited places the twins had supposedly never seen before, the girls appeared to recognize landmarks and streets with remarkable confidence. On one occasion, they reportedly identified the playground where Joanna and Jacqueline had often played years earlier. The parents insisted they had never taken the twins there before. Perhaps most unsettling of all, the girls displayed an intense fear of moving cars. Witnesses claimed the twins would cling tightly to one another whenever a vehicle approached, crying out as though reliving a terrifying memory they should never have possessed. News of the case spread quickly. Psychologists, journalists, and researchers interested in reincarnation all traveled to investigate. To believers, the explanation seemed obvious. The twins were remembering fragments of a previous life. Some researchers studying children who report past life memories argue that young children occasionally describe places, people, or events they seemingly could not have learned through ordinary means. They also point out that many of these memories reportedly fade between the ages of 5 and 7, a pattern the Hexham Twins appeared to follow. Skeptics, however, remain unconvinced. Critics note that the parents openly believed in reincarnation, raising the possibility that subtle suggestions, whether intentional or unconscious, could have influenced the twins' memories over time. Human memory is also surprisingly flexible, especially in young children, making it difficult to separate genuine recollections from stories repeated within a family. By the time the girls reached school age, the mysterious memories gradually disappeared. They went on to live normal lives. No one can say with certainty what truly happened in the Pollock household. Was it coincidence? The power of childhood psychology? Or one of the strongest modern cases for reincarnation ever documented? The answer remains one of history's greatest mysteries. If you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to subscribe for more videos exploring the world's greatest mysteries, unexplained history, ancient discoveries, and unbelievable true stories. And while you're here, click on the next video on your screen, because some of history's strangest secrets are even harder to explain than the ones you've just heard.